Louisiana's 3rd congressional district. It's home to over 770,000 people. It's comprised of a geographically large portion of the southern half of the state, including the city of Lafayette. The folks who live there have sent this man, Republican Clay Higgins, to be their representative in the United States Congress 4 terms in a row. Before he was a congressman, he was a Louisiana police deputy who got himself in a bit of trouble with the following video.
The Gremlin Street Gang is responsible for hundreds of violent crimes. We've arrested 10 of these thugs and have warrants on 7 more. Every one of these animals is most definitely armed and dangerous. You will be hunted. You will be tracked. And if you raise your weapon to a man like me, we'll return fire with superior fire. Darren Carter, you think men like these are afraid of an uneducated, 125-pound punk like you that's never won a fair fight in your life and holds your gun sideways?
Now, in 2016, Higgins was forced to resign in disgrace after publishing that video. So, of course, he immediately ran for Congress and won with 56% of the vote. He hasn't changed a bit. Yesterday, Higgins posted this racist rant about Haitian immigrants in Ohio. Quote, LOL, these Haitians are wild, eating pets, voodoo, nastiest country in the Western Hemisphere, cults, slapstick gangsters, but damned if they don't all feel sophisticated now, filing charges against our present VP. All these thugs better get their mind right and their ass out of our country before January 20th. After widespread outrage and condemnation, including some objections from Republicans, Higgins ended up deleting the tweet. And Republican Speaker of the House Mike Johnson tried to turn the whole thing into a sort of kumbaya moment about the healing powers of redemption.
Clay Higgins is a dear friend of mine and a colleague from Louisiana and a very frank and outspoken person. I just talked to him about it. He said he went to the back and he prayed about it and he regretted it and he pulled the post down. That's what you want a gentleman to do. I'm sure he probably regrets some of the language he used, but, you know, we move forward. We believe in redemption around here.
He prayed about it, he regretted it, and he pulled the post down. So guess what? After Congress officially left town for 6 weeks, Higgins then turned around and said, I'll do it again if I want to. Quote, it's all true. I can put up another controversial post tomorrow if you want me to. I mean, we do have freedom of speech. I'll say what I want. It's not a big deal to me. It's like something stuck to the bottom of my boot. Just scrape it off and move on with my life. Jeff Sharlet has covered the far right for 2 decades. He's author of The Undertow, Scenes from a Slow Civil War, which is a great book. And last year, he wrote a fantastic and unnerving profile of Clay Higgins entitled The Congressman Telling Trump Supporters to Buckle Up. Jeff, I thought of you immediately when I saw what Higgins posted. Let's start with the post, which is genuinely shocking and vile, even by the degraded standards of modern political right-wing rhetoric. I'm sure you weren't surprised, but what was your reaction when you saw this develop yesterday?
I think Clay Higgins is the latest member of the GOP to sort of carry the ball forward on an escalation of violent political rhetoric, using immigrants, using Haitian Americans who are here legally, working hard in Springfield, Ohio. And, you know, he's not a bright man, but he has a long history of playing a media game. And this is one more sort of notch for him in escalating the rhetoric and moving it closer to violence, closer to the civil war that he has, in fact, fantasized about in the past.
Yeah, talk a little more about that, because not only is this a person who I think is, you know, clearly racist, it certainly expresses racist views. He really is obsessed with this sort of idea of like incipient violence, threatening violence, violence sort of haunting everything, the politics of violence. And you talk about this in the piece.
Yeah, I think there's sort of 2 dates that you can look at in Representative Higgins' life, and that goes back one to when Trump was first indicted, and a number of Freedom Caucus members. I think it was Representative Andy Biggs who talked about it's time for war, but Clay Higgins went further. He said, know your bridges, buckle up, 150K, know your bridges, rock steady, calm. And it was this sort of bizarre language that a lot of people thought was funny, they made fun of. They thought, here's another Republican who's incoherent. What he was referring to there, though, was 1 to 50,000, which is a ratio of military-grade maps. Hold your bridges. This is speaking to a kind of fascist fantasy, which is not so much militias marching on cities, but as in taking strongholds. Know the bridges, know the means of approach to your stronghold, and seize it.
You also cite a few other things he said in the piece, and this one really leapt out at me. He said, you say Higgins didn't win much attention when he told a gas industry conference he was a 3%er, part of a militia movement that believes the U.S. government is tyrannical and must be confronted in the spirit of Revolutionary War. There are 3%ers have been indicted and were involved in some of the stuff on January 6th. In 2020, responding on Facebook. This is while he's a sitting member of Congress on Facebook to armed Black Lives Matter protesters. Higgins promised to shoot them on sight. I'd drop any 10 of you where you stand.
Yeah, and he added 1450 FPS, which again was sort of derided as, what is this guy speaking of? He's speaking of ammunition speed, 1,450 feet per second. The 3%ers is part of a long history going back to 1992 when he was voting for David Duke. He's been connected to Richard Spencer, to the Oath Keepers. The 3%ers, he was talking to a gas industry meeting, and he was telling them, you are the 3%ers, imagining them as a militia against people who are trying to fight climate change.
You know, he also this is someone I think is fairly consistent. In 2007, when he was a police officer, he was accused of striking a handcuffed suspect. And then lying about it, he quit rather than being demoted. So there are some actual actions in his past that suggest a kind of intimacy with violence.
He goes back to 2018 when he first trained as a military policeman. He is an incompetent cop. I mean, 2 forces at least that he's been forced to resign from. And he's incompetent even by the standards of his own kind of idea about the blue line. But where that really comes to bear is when you look at what he's been doing. He gets derided as a congressman who doesn't achieve much. He's not trying to do legislation. You're showing a picture there of him with Ashley Babbitt's mother, Mickey Whithoff. He's the leading member of Congress in terms of pushing the conspiracy theory that January 6th was what they call a Fedsurrection, that it was the FBI, that the FBI are the enemy. He speaks of the deep state. He constantly is going on podcasts and saying that he and other members of the Freedom Caucus have gathered all this secret information that they're going to reveal at a certain point, coming soon. Rock steady, calm, hold on. He's always promising an apocalypse just around the corner.
Jeff Sharlet, who wrote that great profile of Clay Higgins, The Atlantic, and a fantastic book about similar themes. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.